Dr. John Perry is a preeminent holographer in the world today. At his studio, Holographics North, located in Burlington, Vermont, Dr. Perry produces the largest holograms in the world, used by major corporations and outstanding contemporary artists alike. Dr. Perry has single-handedly made a most significant and impressive contribution to the field of contemporary holography. Dr. John Perry.
I think it worked just fine. I think we have a letha. No, I don't want to label that. I'm going to label the other end. Okay, right there. Some systems like this for smaller format are built on a movie projector. It's pin registration of the film from frame to frame, which is the way a movie. Then you got to shoot with a movie camera, and you have a film gate pirated out of a movie projector in here, or maybe another movie camera. But the format, 35 millimeter film frame, is smaller on a movie camera than it is on a still camera. It runs, the long dimension runs across the film instead of with the film, so the resolution's not as good. I decided I'd prefer to use still because it's easier to process in-house. Okay, she's in there. I guess the next thing to do is we're going to look and see if she's in the right position, and I'm going to have to turn the light. Here, it's a microscope objective lens, and the collimated little narrow laser beam comes into it, and the lens focuses it to a focal point, and then the light passes right through that focal point and spreads out beyond it, like that. Mm-hmm. And then right at the focal point, you put an opaque aluminum, very thin aluminum foil curtain with a tiny pinhole punched in it. It's about 10 micron pinhole punched in it. And the idea is to get that pinhole exactly to the focal point of the light. And then any light that's moving in the wrong direction gets blocked by the curtain. And only the light that focuses right to the focal point passes through. And it cleans up a lot of what we call noise, a lot of little patterns, scratches, and spots that are in the original beam that come from dirt on the optics and stuff like that. The pinhole filters all that out, so it's called a spatial filter. And it ends up looking like that. While you're tuning it, getting the pinhole where it belongs, it goes through all these strange patterns. You're sort of, the pinhole's not right on the focal point. You've got to very carefully, and we've got one loose screw in this spatial filter, so it's hard to get it to sit right, but right there is a pretty good clean beam. And then what we're trying to do down here is just get it centered in the film gate. Now we're actually not, we don't want to be really centered in the film gate. We want to use what you're seeing is the top of the area of the film gate. In flipping the film gate over for your shots, it ended up a little bit high. We can't lower it anymore, so we're using the bottom part of the film gate, and it's reversed over here, so it's really this top part is what we're using of the film gate. So we want the beam to be centered right about, I don't know, two-thirds of the way up from the bottom. It's just about where it is now. I might go a little bit further, just a shade further, bring that down. Right at the beginning, I think that is a better spot. So back up. That's not right. Okay. There's our custom-made program. Shutter stayed closed. That's interesting. Usually it snaps the shutter closed. So we're going to set the number of exposures to 186. We're going to set the exposure time to 28. What we had on the last ones, that looked good. I want a little more settling time between drive system. That's item number 4. We'll go to, oops, didn't work. 4, we'll go to 6 seconds. We'll probably have to drive the slit mechanism back. So this, of the two-step holographic process, this is the result of the first step, the first hologram called the master. And we're going to illuminate this hologram with laser light to focus a 3D image in space, and then make a new hologram of that image. So we're making, the final hologram will be a hologram of a hologram, and this is that first hologram called the master. And you probably noticed as you looked at it, there were these roughly, they're 6 millimeters wide, about a 1/4 inch wide vertical strips of exposure. There are about 186 of them actually running all the way down. And when you look through the exposure over on the far left, you're looking at the turntable rotation, the photograph from the turntable rotation as far clockwise as it went, or to the right as it went. So you're looking at her from the left when you're looking through the left side of the master. And then you look through the next slit, little narrow slit, and you see the next photograph, which was a slight rotation, a little bit more of a rightward perspective, and then you go a little more, a little more, a little more, and all the way down to the other end is the furthest right-hand perspective as she turned on the turntable. So basically, as you move down the line, you see her rotate just as she did when you shot the images. And to get a 3D image in space from the hologram, that's what you need. As you walk by it, you want it to look like it's rotating, as if it was actually a 3D subject sitting there. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, when you look through this master with two eyes, one eye is looking through one slit, and the other eye is looking through another slit, about 10 slits down. So your left and right eyes are seeing slightly different rotations of the subject, and you see a stereo pair, then a stereographic pair. There's parallax between your left eye's view and your right eye view. So it looks 3D without moving. You just stand here and look at it, and it looks 3D because you're always seeing stereo pairs. And then as you move, those stereo pairs just keep running down the whole series, and the whole image appears. It remains 3D, and it appears to rotate. And then it can also move. It can animate from frame to frame slowly, like a movie, like a video. If you animate too fast, your left eye is always seeing a different time frame than your right eye because you're about 10 slits apart. If the animation's too fast, the view that your two eyes get, the two views, won't be similar enough for your brain to put it together if the movement is too quick. And then that's called time smear, and everything kind of gets crazy, and you can't really recognize the 3D anymore. So you can try to, the image distorts if you move it much.
So now you see the lines in it too.
Yeah, I don't know if the camera's going to focus on the film or on the image.
I don't
it's
either.
Hard to say. Usually it's one or the other. Depends on how it focuses, really. The image is a little bit out of focus anyway here because we're not looking at it with a laser. We're looking at it with a mercury vapor lamp, which does not give you as quite as sharp an image. The image is back about 3.5 feet behind the film here. The film is right where my hand is, and the image is 3.5 feet back. I can't even see my hand back there. Of course, there's no light back there. The light's really coming from the film to your eye, looking as if it came from image points 3.5 feet back. So that's what we call a virtual image. That the light never really gets there. Which is what I'm standing on, 12 by 22 feet, and it's isolated from vibration pretty well. It's got airspace underneath it. The beam comes in this way, and this little mirror right here sends it over toward this beam splitter. And this round piece of glass is silvered, and the silvering is from light to heavy silvering on it. So it's a variable mirror or beam splitter. Really. Some of the beam is reflected off that way, and some of the beam goes straight through it this way to another mirror here. So the beam that goes that way is sent over like, hard to see it from your angle, but it's like this, going over to a mirror here, and then this way, and through a little hole in this baffle just to block the light that we don't, the straight light that we don't want. And then it goes through a lens and a spatial filter, which we talked about yesterday, a lens followed by a pinhole. That spreads the beam out. And then this is basically a telescope mirror that brings the light. It doesn't really bring it back toward a focal point, but it makes it look as if it came from a source much further away. It kind of partially collimates the light. And that mirror reflects the light over toward the film holder. which is 22 feet. This mirror goes up to a mirror way back there in the corner of the table, and then through a couple of lenses, spatial filter and another lens, that spread it into a tall, wide rectangle. So it's coming down the table and it looks like this, and it's the shape of this big liquid lens when it gets here, big rectangular aperture there. The light has a certain width to it, and it covers from bottom to top. We don't need the very top of the lens, so they've got a curtain on that just to keep it blacked out. But that laser light is passing through this acrylic. The faces of this lens are made of acrylic, 1/2 inch thick, and it's filled with 35 quarts actually of mineral oil. No, I was right the first time. It's 35 gallons of mineral oil in there. So it's a lens, and it bends the light to bring it to a focal point about 25 feet that way. It never gets there, but it's coming toward a focal point. And then it passes through the master hologram right here, which we gave you. Here comes David's second master. There. First of all, you'll notice that pretty much everything you're seeing here is ugly, dirty, ugly. And that's very important, because if it ain't ugly, it won't work. And we determined that way back at the beginning. The MIT lab always had a lot of shiny stainless steel and fancy stuff and very fancy equipment, testing equipment. And frankly, they had a lot of trouble making holograms. So it's got to be made of junk. Most of the equipment in this room, especially, in fact, came from the junkyard, one junkyard or another. There used to be a very good high-tech junkyard in Burlington, the north end of Burlington. IBM, the big Essex IBM plant, would send all their... Open this up. Karen. Schizophrenic, sort of split in my attention span. I'm
yeah.
thinking about this problem up at the university at the same time.
Oh, nice.
That's probably low enough now that I'm going to barely see it. Yeah, I barely see it in deep red now.
Okay.
But you're probably getting it into pretty good. And if you come a little closer, it'll all be one color in orange.
Yeah.